Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Kate Ertman. I am the president of the Rotary Club of Portland. Welcome to our online video weekly membership meeting. So for the past few weeks, I've been kicking off these meetings with some sort of Rotary related update, usually from outside of our club. But I'm going to bring it back to us this week because I got to witness my fellow club Rotarians being there for each other. This year's U40 cohort, they have been continuing to hold their meetings, have speakers, and they've also been striving to kind of build that U40 cohort bond, that fellowship bond, because they haven't been able to meet in person. This was all wonderfully evident when one of them shared that due to the uncertainty of everything going on today, and that they're expecting to have a baby boy in the next few weeks, they were concerned about the amount of needed newborn items that they would be able to have. And in a matter of 10 minutes, truly it was just 10 minutes, a number of fellow U40 members from the present as well as current cohort, all over email, they all offered items that they were no longer needing because some of them had moved on, they have toddlers now. And it all happened so quickly and so genuinely. And as I saw all those emails come in, I was struck that it wasn't that there was some sort of emergency announced and then everybody sprang into action. His ask was the sort of ask that you'd put out to a group of folks that you're familiar with, that you're intentionally building trust with. And it wasn't merely a group that may only be business related. And again, as I say, I think every week now, one of the greatest characteristics of a Rotarian, it was shown at that moment when someone who immediately and very authentically said, "Oh, I can help right now. How can I help you?" And there was no hesitation. So in that moment, this really exemplified for me, not just the spirit of service, but also that special bond of what will likely be a lifelong fellowship that is unique, truly unique between Rotarians. Now, please welcome Rotarian Birol Yishil. Oh, I'm sorry, Birol Yishilada. There, I got it that time. He will give you this week's reflection.
Thank you, Kate. Good afternoon, fellow Rotarians and guests. I'm here as a representative of our Peace Committee. And in these days of difficulties and uncertainties facing us, wanted to share with you an important message from Bob Morse, which was published in What is a Culture of Peace? Peace is not the absence of conflict. In a culture of peace, disagreeing parties would collaborate to discover solutions, possibly conclusions that neither could have realized on their own. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Birol, for giving that today and for being here today. Now I'd like to welcome any virtual guests. Thank you all for tuning into our weekly membership meeting. And I would also like to extend a happy anniversary to everyone who became a Rotarian in the month of May. You can see that the membership May anniversary list, it's in the email that you receive when you get the link to this exact video. And you can also see that list on our website under the header of membership. As always, my fellow Rotarians, please make the effort to reach out to those that are celebrating their Rotary anniversary this month and thank them for their years of service above self. Now, each month we highlight one of our committees, and for the month of May, as Birol mentioned, it is our Peace Builders Committee this month. Please welcome Rotarian Mike Caruso from the Rotary Club of Newburgh, and he's going to tell you about Peace Builder Clubs, Peace Fellows, and the Peace Polls Project.
Thank you, President Kate, and thank you for inviting me to come and say a few words to your club today. First of all, about Peace Builder Clubs, the purpose of Peace Builder Clubs is to educate Rotarians about Rotary's history of peace and to help empower Rotarians to take action at supporting peace. The Peace Builder Clubs program began in 2011 with 9 clubs, of which Portland is a charter member, and your own Birol Yishilada is the co-chair of the committee. Today we have 36 Peace Builder Clubs, including 1 Rotaract Peace Builder Club and 2 Interact Peace Builder Clubs. Peace Builder Clubs have since spread beyond the confines of District 5100. In 2016, they began across the United States, and in 2018, around the world. Peace Builder clubs have been active in participating and funding both district and global grants, such as in 2018, Peace Village Tripoli, Lebanon. In February of March of that year, a district grant was raised in the amount of $14,000, with your club being a principal partner in making this happen. The Columbia Peace Symposium in 2018, global grant with your club serving as the international partner. And this included participation with several District 5100 Peace Builder clubs and also Peace Builder clubs in Virginia. This project, which came to fruition in 2018, was the first opportunity we had as Peace Builder clubs to engage Peace Builder clubs beyond the confines of our own district. We reached out to Peace Builder clubs across the US and were happy to receive word from 3 Rotary Peace Builder clubs in Northern Virginia in District 7610, where they introduced Peace Builder clubs in 2016. Thanks to participation of these 3 Virginia Peace Builder clubs, we attained and actually surpassed our goal for the fundraising for the Peace Symposium project that your own Leslie Brunker was able to attend and report to all of us about the success of that project. Your Portland Rotary Club is also a major player in our current Nepal Combating Violence Against Women Global Grant, total budget of in excess of $220,000. District 5100 Peace Builder clubs, as well as Peace Builder clubs in Phoenix, Arizona, Beverly Hills, 3 Rotary clubs in Winnipeg, Canada, Rotary Peace Builder clubs in Texas and Cincinnati, and others raised $35,000 to launch this global grant project. The Peace Fellows program, since 2011, the number of Rotary Peace Fellows successfully sponsored by District 5100 exceeds 25 applicants successfully being awarded Peace Fellowships. Over 1/3 of these successful awardees were sponsored by the Rotary Club of Portland. 2 of our first certificate Peace Fellows, Officer Jessica Brainerd and Officer Natasha Hansberger, are members of the Portland Police Department and were sponsored by the Rotary Club of Portland. Currently, Rotary Peace Fellow Andrew Stone, another Peace Fellow sponsored by your club, is working on a COVID-19 hand washing stations and mass production project in one of the largest refugee camps in the world in northern Kenya, with a population of over 400,000 refugees. Your own past district governor, Daniil Banks, has been a key committee member serving to interview Peace Fellow applicants and served as a mentor and counselor to all of our applicants. And finally, the Peace Polls Project. The District 5100 Peace Polls Project was launched in 2016 by our Peace Builder clubs under the direction of the Jubitz Family Foundation, which in most cases underwrote the cost of the project by covering the cost of more than 300 peace polls and counting in the amount of $100 per poll, basically 50% of the cost of each peace poll planted. In Newburgh in 2017, our 2 Rotary clubs coordinated to plant over 50 peace polls in the greater Newburgh-Dundee area, thanks in large part to the generosity of the Jubitz Family Foundation under the direction of Al Jubitz. In 2019, this project, which had already stretched beyond the confines of District 5100 with the planting of several peace polls in Hawaii, went global with the efforts of Rotarians from the Beaverton Rotary Peace Builder Club, traveling to and planting peace polls in Armenia and Russia, and currently have a goal of planting over 100 peace polls in Russia. So just to summarize, Peace Builder clubs, particularly here in District 5100, are flourishing, and a huge part of our success is due to the generosity of members of the Rotary Club of Portland, not only financially, but more importantly, the direct personal involvement of so many of your members. Thank you so very much for helping to make our District 5100 Peace Builder clubs the thriving and growing group of Rotarians it has been and continues to be for our communities and for the world.
Thank you so much for that update, Mike. That was a great overview of the many different projects that the Peace Builders, not just in our club, but all across, well, gosh, across the country, but especially in our area here in Oregon, so much work that they're doing every single day to promote peace in so many different ways. Thank you so much for giving the update today.
You're very welcome.
Next up, I have the results for the Trust Board elections that were held at the end of April. They are, the results are our new Portland Rotary Charitable Trust Board members, Kim Cash, Jana Cole, Robert Kraft, and Mike Lester. Congratulations to each one of you. Now it's time for the chair of the day. Please welcome Rotarian Will Nolan to introduce our speaker.
Good afternoon, Rotarian family. I miss almost all of you and look forward to when we can meet as a family again. I say almost because I have a Rotarian in the family here who would probably rather be with you than here. So last summer we had one of our weekly meetings up at the zoo, which was very well received. So when Don's name was suggested again, we jumped at the chance to hear what they're up to when no one is looking. Being shut down for an extended period of time is certainly disappointing for us, the 1.5 million viewers who join the zoo every year. But it does provide an opportunity that couldn't be done, or maybe not done as easily, with visitors. I'm looking forward to hearing just about what those things are that they are doing right now, and how they are coping without all the curious eyes looking over their shoulders. Don is the director of the zoo, a position he's held since 2016. He's a native of New York and has spent his career as a conservation biologist. You can read all about him on the zoo website, as I'm sure we would all rather hear from him than hear me talk. And with that, thanks for joining us today, and please give Don a warm virtual Rotary welcome. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, thanks for inviting me today. Really appreciate it. Hope everybody's doing well. We miss you all at the zoo. Just a little background as a reminder. Oregon Zoo is the largest by visitation cultural institution in the entire region, in the 3-state area. So over 1.5 million visitors a year. And the zoo became an enterprise unit of Metro regional government at the time that I got here. So the mantra used to be that the zoo was kind of a function of Metro, brought to you by Metro. We get 30% of our funding from Metro and 10% from our zoo foundation, and the rest we have to raise through ticket revenue, retail revenue, concerts, and things like that. So March 17th was kind of the COVID cliff for the zoo, the Portland 5 theater venues, the convention center, and expo center, all of which are within the Metro venues family. We're all enterprise funds. And so we lost on that day. We lost 60% of our funding. The unfortunate part of that is that we had to immediately, or relatively immediately, lay off over 25% of our staff and about over 200 temporary personnel to get by, because unlike a museum, we can't just close our doors and stop feeding animals and send people home, turn off the lights. So we kept all of our animal care staff, kept all of our veterinary staff, and we continue to provide excellent animal welfare. The other thing, the unique thing about Oregon is, thank goodness, Governor Brown allowed construction to continue. So the voters voted on a bond back in 2008, and that bond construction has continued on the polar bear, primate, and rhino projects. So we're pretty happy about that activity. The other activity that's been going on is every once in a while there are, really essential animal transfers. And so we had to move a female giraffe in, and we're really sorry that nobody in the community can see that giraffe right now, because she's amazing and she's getting along with her new boyfriends at the zoo. And also, we're one of the only zoos in the world with a unique animal welfare science unit. And we have a PhD student who, was studying the welfare of some of the species based on noise and crowd size and things like that before this happened. And she has this really unique opportunity right now as a PhD student to have nobody at the zoo for months. And so she has an instant experiment in how the animals are doing when nobody is around to for them to watch. Let's put it that way. So we know that Chloe the chimp loves to watch people, and she has spent so much time near her glass that we've assigned kind of times for different animal care teams to go up and interact with her so that she doesn't get bored. It's kind of like chimp TV is looking out the window, you know? So what else? So the bond, I wish I had some slides of the bond, but one of the advantages that we took of being closed was we had a whole bunch of bond construction work that was going to take different sections of public paths, and we were wondering how on earth we were going to route the public around these different areas that had to be dug up for weeks at a time. And as soon as we closed and we realized that this was going to be a long closure, we allowed the construction team to take down all of their protective fences and just take over that path. We're like, get her done. And they wanted to get it done too. So they dug up hundreds of feet of path, because part of the bond project is to kind of restore and replace all of that infrastructure that's underground, electrical, plumbing, put in new IT infrastructure. So they dug everything up. They did what they needed to do to all that underground infrastructure, and then they replaced it. So we've got brand new paths as of last week, so early May. So it was really good. So reopening, yeah, that's the question of the minute. And we're working hard with Multnomah County Health and also the Tri-County Health Chairs and the Oregon Health Authority on how we can safely reopen for the public. So we know that parks are open and other outdoor spaces are open. And so we and other zoos, other accredited zoos across the country and botanical gardens across the country are looking at being park-like spaces. And we think that we can reopen more safely than any park can reopen. So imagine going to the zoo, having bought your ticket online in advance to reduce any kind of interaction for ticket purchases, and then having that ticket be a time ticket. So, you know, I think Disney invented it, but we're happy to copy. And we did that this past year for our Zoo Lights program. And time ticketing worked really well. It spread people out and to have an equal experience for everybody instead of everybody crammed into 1 hour. And then, so come into the zoo with your time ticket and then find a one-way path through the zoo. All the buildings would be closed. You would be outside. There would be trail monitors, so making sure that you're physically distancing the whole time. We haven't decided on masks yet. We're not really sure what the science is on masks for people who are outdoors. We do know that for employees, it's probably best to be in masks around the public, but if the public only has a fleeting interaction with an employee or with a space, then they move by and the sunlight takes care of the rest, because COVID doesn't like sunlight and it doesn't like heat and humidity. So do we mandate masks like TriMet has for the public, or do we strongly recommend masks for the public? We know that some sectors of the public feel better if they're in masks, and we do too, but some sectors of the public are really adamantly opposed to wearing a mask, and sometimes that's because of minority status and already being kind of pigeonholed as some kind of a dangerous person, or it's because of a kid who doesn't want to wear a mask, a 2-year-old, and it's uncomfortable, or it's because somebody's got difficulty breathing and health-wise they can't wear a mask. So there are a variety of reasons. We get it. So we're thinking about strongly recommending masks, but not mandating those masks. And we've been following kind of the zoos that are open. There are a few zoos in the country in Utah and Texas and Florida that are already open. And we're having a conversation with the zoos in the Western Pact. I was just on the phone this morning with San Diego talking about it, about our different protocols and how those would look. And then I would just say, you know, what we know about getting outdoors is there's healing power in being outdoors, mentally, by being in contact with 3D stuff instead of all this 2D stuff that we're seeing on screens. Physically, in terms of vitamin D and other health reasons to just get outdoors. Drives me crazy that people are saying stay at home, stay inside. It's just not healthy for us. Healthy is being outdoors, in my opinion, and based on science. And in fact, when they got the victims of the Spanish flu 100 years ago outdoors for care in the summertime in the sun instead of indoors, they found faster recovery times apparently. So, and that's been in, you know, a couple of newspapers. So getting people outdoors and reconnecting with nature is a really important thing. Meanwhile, you know, we kept the core, you know, animal welfare, animal care team on. We kept some facilities people on who take care of the animal areas, but we also kept 3 very, very important communications team members on. And we have some of the best reach for public engagement with our animals of any zoo in the entire world. So Dakota, the black bear, was playing in a tub last week and made the Guardian in London, made the country newspaper in Venezuela, and made the news in Japan and China, and all across the United States, including KGW and CNN. You know, so I think K2, I'm not gonna try to mention everybody because I'll leave somebody out and they'll be upset. But Dakota the black bear is, you know, an international personality. And again, people can watch Dakota in 2D, but we think it's more engaging to see our animal population in 3D outdoors safely in the sunlight and physically distancing. So we're gonna try to work with the governor's office on reopening sometime soon. That's all I've got, and I'm open for questions.
Wow, thank you so much, Don, for sharing all of that information. And I know I have some questions, but does anybody else who is participating today have any questions? There's Will. Will, go ahead with the question.
Thanks, Don. It's great. It's always great to hear about you and the animals up at the zoo. And I did see the bear in the pool, and that was just one of the greatest things. It was such a good thing to see during that day. So I've got a couple questions for you, and maybe I don't know if we bounce back or forth or whatever else we do, but one of the first questions I would have, and it's kind of a serious question, would be, what is the risk of us transferring it to an animal? Yeah. And what precautions are you taking, you know, with food and everything else to mitigate that risk?
Yeah, it's a great question. So, you know, the Bronx Zoo tiger at this point is pretty famous. The entire tiger population at the Bronx Zoo and all of the lions, who, by the way, are a half a mile away from the tigers at the Bronx Zoo, but had the same apparently symptomless keeper, asymptomatic keeper, they all got COVID, and they were tested by, you know, the veterinary unit at Cornell University, plus a pathology unit, veterinary pathology unit at University of Illinois, plus a USDA unit. So all 3 of those testing organizations for animals, they didn't take any human testing capacity or anything, but they all found that those cats had COVID. They all lost appetite and they were coughing, and they've all recovered. We also know that, you know, a couple of pet dogs have had it now, and a pet cat. And so, yes, animals, animals can get the disease, and we're concerned about that. So part of our protocol is our people are in PPE around these kind of virus-prone mammals, if you will. So great apes, cats, other carnivores, and we want the public to stay back, at least 6 feet, and we can achieve that. We can achieve 10 feet, we can achieve 20 feet, all the way around the zoo. So it's a great question. People cannot get the disease from animals as near as we know. Animals can get it from us. So it originally came out of a bat. A friend of mine who was the chief veterinarian at National Zoo, who's now with the UN PREDICT team, has said if it came out of a test tube, they had to have crammed the bat into the test tube to get the same results. So I love that quote. But it came from a bat through probably a wet market in Asia and then to humans. And we know that that transmission is possible. But now that it's in humans, us transmitting it back to animals is part of the danger, and then the animals transmitting it to us is not a danger. So it's a safe place in terms of that. Pardon me, I needed a little more light there. So
You have
Other
another
question?
question, Will? Go right ahead.
I'll keep going here. So when you do reopen, like I think I read on your website, you had 1.5 million visitors last year through there. What do you anticipate the capacity would be going forward?
yeah, our designed capacity, so all the zoos, all the AZA accredited zoos across the country are talking about a 50% capacity maximum. And so really what we think is going to happen is in phase 1 and possibly even in phase 2, we'll get 25% of our capacity. So for the zoos that are already open, like Hogle Zoo in Salt Lake City, which opened in early May or late April, they have designed for 50%, but they're getting 20 to 25% on any given day. So there's a safety factor for the zoo and the government to consider in reopening. There are all the assumptions and protocols to consider, and then there's public willingness to consider. And what I've seen in the most recent polling around Portland and the region is about 50% of the people think that reopening right now is a little bit too fast, and others think it's just right, or maybe they don't know, or it's too slow. So that means that we've already lost half of our stakeholders, and then we're designing at 50%. Maybe we'll get 25%. So it's going to be slow. We're just trying to, and the zoo's going to look different for a while. Buildings won't be open. Food service will be kind of at windows and takeout only. Gift shop will be, in an outdoor kind of space. But we want to give people the chance to get safely outdoors. And we think we can do that.
Great. Does anybody else have a question? Oh, Mike, go right ahead.
Have you noticed much difference in the demeanor or activity of any of the animals not having visitors, and which ones might seem to be most affected?
Yeah, well, my consternation as an animal behaviorist is kind of having to stay home. So Metro allows me to go in once a week, and I do get to walk around. Most of the time, I walk past mountain lions or lions, and they're sleeping during the day half the time anyway. So no difference there. Black bears, different thing, because I spend a lot of time around bears because they're one of my favorite animals. And so black bears are kind of looking at me like, where have you been? We know you're not one of our keepers, but we don't see you every day, but here you are. So, and then of course there's Chloe the chimp, and she's lonely without her peeps. She's got a whole public crew that comes to see her on a weekly basis to check in with her because they've known her for decades, you know. So again, we're assigning different keepers to go to the chimp area and interact with her on a regular basis through the day so she doesn't get too bored. But no, I'm not noticing a lot else. We are noticing a lot of different behaviors with wild animals. You know, there are coyotes in the park and near my neighborhood here in the West Hills that are just facing us down if we're walking. It's like, why are you invading our space? You've been gone for a long time. Go back to your house where you belong. You know, that kind of thing. A friend of mine in South Dakota was confronted by a mountain lion. And she said, you know, that didn't happen when we had a lot of people coming into the national park, and she lives right next door to the national park. So animals are walking out, taking over. Dolphins in the canals in Venice. I mean, they haven't been seen there for decades, you know. So yeah, changes in wild animals for sure.
Anybody else have any questions? Well, I do then. Is there anything that that perhaps you've learned from this, or that you're maybe seeing that you might some learning that you might adapt and start doing something differently in the future when things are open again, that you may not have had reason to learn that adaptation, whether it be just how you have scheduling of people who work there, or anything that does have to do with interaction with the animals?
Interesting. I think this is the first time, I mean, having worked at, you know, a variety of zoos and even with the Zoo Association before I got here, so having oversight for 230 member zoos and aquariums across the country and the world, this is the first time that we've taken such a deep dive into the finances to figure out, and I think every business person is in the same position right now, but to figure out, you know, what keeps us going. And we had already finished our strategic plan, thank goodness, in January. And it was, you know, it was approved by Metro Council and everything. And it's a really good strategic plan. We had a lot of input from stakeholders and everything. And I think even, you know, some of your own Rotary members had some input into that strategic plan. And so the number one thing that we do is animal care and welfare, right? And then the other things, they're all on the strategic plan, but we were able to say, okay, let's take a business approach to these other things. What's costing us money, and what is revenue generating or potentially revenue generating, and what can we cut to make the animal care piece survive, since the animals are going to be there, they have to be fed, they have to be medicated. And then as we slowly reopen, we can't just bring back 300 people automatically when we're only bringing in 25% of the public and of our revenues. And so, yes, we're thinking very, very differently. And it turns out, by the way, that July and August and December zoo lights are the 3 times in the year that we actually make enough money to put it into a reserve so that we can survive bad times like this. And the rest of the time, we kind of break even, and sometimes we lose money. And so the question is, for the times that we lose money, you know, do we lose market share if we just close down and go back to a skeleton crew for those times? Or do we really have to stay open for those times, because maybe those are the only times that a certain segment of the population can visit the zoo, and we want to be accessible to all. So it's really weighty conversations that we're having about how we go forward. Yeah.
Wow, like you said, all of us in no matter what industry, we're all just kind of just figuring new things out every day.
Yeah, that's right. And by the way, one of the questions that I get is about PPP, and our private colleagues like Woodland Park Zoo in Seattle, and I think Oregon Coast Aquarium were eligible for PPP, but governments are not. And so Point Defiance Zoo and Aquarium in Tacoma, Northwest Trek Drive-Through Park, which is part of the Point Defiance Zoo, and Oregon Zoo were not eligible for PPP. So we're trying to balance that with maybe some state resources or other federal resources to try to continue our basic animal care as we go toward a slow reopening.
Wow. Wow. Well, will you, we very well may reach out to you again in the next few months once things do start opening up again. Because I, for one, am very curious to see if things do kind of sort of go back to normal as more humans start going through, or if it actually will change.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
You look like, did Beryl have a question? Did you raise your hand?
Yeah, I had a question. I have a 7-year-old grandson who's just in love with the zoo. And he's dying for me to find out when it will open and will the rides be open, particularly his favorite rides, the trains. It just fascinated. And I assume that would be longer haul, right?
That's right. So sorry to say, when we reopen, so I mentioned everything but those high touch areas. So the nature play area, the train, the carousel, even the stone animal statues that kids love to play on will not reopen in phase 1, maybe even in phase 2. Yeah, although other zoos are opening their trains in phase 1. They're braver than we are, or they've got maybe more people to take care of the disinfecting that you need to do if you have a high touch area open. So, and we won't even open, say, our education center. The brand new education center has very, very wide doors, and those doors could be propped open, I'm sure. And you know, that could be considered part of our park-like space, but again, it's got high touch zones, a play log and some play animals on the inside. So any high touch areas would be closed. Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Well, thank you so much again, Don, for making the time to be here today to share all this news with us, because I know a few people have been very, very curious, including the children of a few of those people as well, or our grandchildren, as Beryl had. So again, we will most likely reach out to you in a few months to find out how things are going.
Thank you. And I've got to thank all of your members who, you know, jumped in and helped us when the Oregon Zoo Foundation did their $1 million emergency fundraiser. We know that we had a lot of support with small gifts from throughout the community, including from a woman who had lost her job but loved the zoo so much. She said, you know, $30 is all I can give, but here's my $30. And that, to me, just sounds like a Rotary member. I don't know. You guys are so kind and generous. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you very much for saying that. And yeah, I mean, the zoo means a lot to a lot of us, especially those that have grown up here and have seen it just grow and expand through the years. And it's a special connection for not just the adults, but the children together to learn the different stuff and have that bond over the different animals. So thank you. And yeah, we'll be reaching out to you, like I said, in a few months again.
Sure. Thank you so much.
Okay, so if anybody out there has any questions for Don, please do have a conversation on our Facebook page. We can post a question there and we'll make sure that it gets back to Don, and then we'll get back on the Facebook page to let you know more of any answers that he might have for any lingering questions that we weren't able to ask. Next week we will hear from the 2020 Rose Festival Court. Yes, I know it's an annual event that we always do at the end of May, and we are still going to be able to do it, albeit a little bit differently, but I do hope that many of you will be able to watch that program so we can continue that annual Rotary event virtually. I want to thank all of our speakers that came today, and I would also like to thank our club's membership whenever, wherever it is that you may be viewing this meeting. I hope that you might be perhaps watching this with your family. You probably are if we were talking about the zoo. And also, please share this video with your friends so that they can not only understand what Rotary is, but what Rotary does in fellowship and in service. I just want to give a few reminders of some of the online fellowship opportunities that we've been doing these past few weeks. At 10 a.m. on Tuesdays and Fridays, we host a coffee room for members to just be able to have a little social time with each other. If you would like to participate in that, please contact the office and they'll get you hooked up with the right information to attend the coffee time. And there's also a Thursday social at 4 p.m. That's where one of our fellow Rotarians gives some expert insight on what is going on in their industry. We've heard about dentistry, we've heard about architecture, we have heard about supply chain, and this week we'll have Rotarian Mari Bunnage, and she will share how the Portland Rose Court, as well as the festival, is adapting this year and still carrying on as much of the traditions as they can. Also, don't forget that we're making committee quick chats, which are basically these really short interview updates that I'm having with different representatives from the different committees that we have, both the service and the fellowship committees. And we're just making these short videos so you can understand not just what the committee does, but also what the committee has been doing during this time of lockdown. And also if the committee has any asks or any favors that they want to ask of our club or of anybody that would be watching the videos. So please do go to our YouTube page. You can find it under a little playlist that is called Committee Quick Chats, and there's always a link in Friday Spokes. Lastly, we are hiring an administrative manager for our club, as you may know, when Corinne DeTorres will be leaving in August. So right now we're going through accepting applications, and if you know of anybody or if you yourself are interested, for more information, please go to our website. You can find out how to apply there. And hopefully we will continue to keep receiving a bunch of applications for that position. As always, take care of you, take care of yours. Let's continue our service work so that when we say that we are committed to service above self, it is more than just a motto, it is a Rotarian value to uphold. This meeting is adjourned. There's usually a bell and it doesn't want to ring, so thank you.